MVP. Goal swung, right field. Forget about it. Rangers strike first. Goes after the first one. Drills a high fly ball. Left center field. This game is tied. From Javier. Seager hits a high fly ball. Deep right field. A bomb into first. Drive. It's tied. Corey Seager smashes the ball down the line. Goodbye. Now Seager to right center field. Way back there. Good again. Corey Seager does it again. It's Rangers win the World Series. The Willie Mays Most Valuable Player Trophy presented by Chevrolet. Is there any doubt? Corey Seager.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Right on Rangers Live. Coming at you with opening day just a couple of weeks away, a little longer than that, but who's counting, right? Man, let's get after it today. This is going to be a good show. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Jacob deGrom, of course, a couple days ago making his spring debut. Wyatt Langford as well. Rangers beginning to make some roster cuts. We're getting a little bit of a clearer picture of what the opening day roster is going to look like. We're going to talk about who got sent back down to the minors and begin to at least piece together what the pitching situation in the bullpen is going to look like. I think a lot has been made of different candidates for the high leverage situations. Some reports coming out giving us a little bit of a clue who might be in the mix. We've already talked at length about some different options. We know that they've got some guys, the Rangers do, down on the farm. Emiliano Teodo comes to mind, who's been closing some games and doing it quite well. Doesn't sound like Teodo is going to be on the opening day roster. Sounds like a little bit of a long shot at this point, but shoot, we can hope, right? Anyways, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Before we get started, of course, here at Right on Rangers, we cover everything sports, but we put a big emphasis on all the teams we love from the great state of Texas, including the Rangers, and especially the Rangers during spring training and as we begin the MLB season. Thank you so much for choosing Right on Rangers for all of your Texas Rangers content. You know the drill. You got a comment, you got a question, you got something for the good of the whole to chat about, Texas Rangers, anything, throw it my way. I'll try and get to it as the show goes on. We absolutely will make sure that we try and get to as many of those as we can. It keeps the show fresh. You guys know how grateful I am for y'all chiming in when you do. So keep throwing stuff my way. But what's up, everybody? Hope you have had a good Monday so far. Days are kind of running together a little bit for me. I'm not going to lie, but I'm glad to be doing this show. Baseball that much closer. And let's start with some really, really positive news. Jacob deGrom making his spring debut just a couple of days ago on March 8th. We're going to break down the debut of Jacob deGrom in spring. And look, we go back and forth all the time. I've already gone back and forth with some of y'all, and not in any kind of angsty way, but some people I know don't make as big of a deal about spring training as others do. I think you got to have a balanced approach when it comes to the spring, right? You have obviously guys who are trying to work on things. You have guys that are trying to get better certain areas. You have guys that are competing for a roster spot. You have guys that are on the line in terms of their job, in terms of an opportunity to play ball at the professional, at the major league level. And so I think that it's a little bit of both. I think spring training, definitely not something that you want to put all of your eggs in terms of evaluating players. But I do think that there is some validity to the spring and a good spring or a bad spring and how it carries over into the regular season. So we look at Jacob deGrom, a guy that obviously made some starts last year. I think late August, early September, something like that is when they started ramping him up, was able to make a few starts. And look, pitched pretty well in the starts that Jacob deGrom did make. Good to see deGrom, though, coming out and having a really, really quality start. Got a couple of innings in. Wasn't anything crazy. You know that they're going to take their time with deGrom. I don't imagine that they're going to be lengthening him out a whole lot when it comes to the sprint. Maybe they start getting him up to 3-4 innings by the time all is said and done, but can't really complain with what Jacob deGrom went out and did in his first spring training start. You're talking about 2 innings pitched, 3 strikeouts, no hits, no earned runs, no walks, about as clean of a 2 innings as you can pitch. I think that Jacob deGrom is going to be a huge, huge factor in the Rangers season. You can imagine that they're probably going to make deGrom a guy that is lengthened out at times in terms of time between starts. I don't think that deGrom is probably going to be a guy that takes the ball every 5th day. I can imagine there's going to be times where the Rangers will skip his turn in the rotation, skip maybe a couple of times, a couple of starts, and then maybe lengthen him out that way. My goal always throughout the entire offseason, I've said this pretty consistently, I think, the Rangers, I think, would be in a really good spot if you can get 25 starts or more out of Jacob deGrom. 25 starts from me would be awesome. Anything over that, I think, is gravy. Jacob deGrom is a guy that you want to be fresh and ready to go for the postseason. And I really do feel like this is going to be a positive year for Jacob deGrom. You're coming off of the second Tommy John surgery. And who knows long-term how well Jacob deGrom's arm is going to hold up. But I do think after that second Tommy John, what you've seen, it's not like there's a ton of guys in the league that have had a second Tommy John surgery, and there's this huge sample size to draw from. I think that, though, by and large, from what I've seen and what I've experienced, I think that guys coming off of that second Tommy John surgery do have some prolonged success and run with health. And I do think that deGrom is going to be healthy for 2025. No crystal ball, just a gut feeling. So I'll say that disclaimer very, very prominently. Like I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody does. But I do think that Jacob deGrom, if I'm betting on a healthy 25 with the Rangers really taking care of him and making sure that he is getting some rest in between starts more than usual. And I do think with the moves that the Rangers have made this year, clearly the goal is October. You're not just trying to have a really good regular season. I think that you will see the Rangers give Jacob deGrom some maintenance days off, skip starts here and there to make sure that he's ready to go. And I don't think as you look around the league, and I would love to hear, I know I get sometimes fans from other teams, but even Rangers fans, because, you know, we don't always all agree as Rangers fans here. But I will say this, I don't think that there's any better 1-2 punch that I can think of in Major League Baseball right now than Jacob deGrom and Nate Eovaldi in the postseason. I don't think that there's any better 1-2 punch than those two. We're assuming fully healthy, right? We're not playing the injury prone or the what if game when it comes to staying healthy. We're saying when healthy. I don't think that there is any better 1-2 punch in baseball than those two guys. And we're talking about postseason experience. It's the full package. It's one thing to be dominant in the regular season. You know, look at the Seattle Mariners, for example. I think they probably have the best rotation by and large in baseball, but you've got a lot of guys that are pretty untested in the postseason. Maybe a few guys that have several starts, a handful of starts here and there, but haven't obviously made it very far. The Mariners, I think, made the postseason a couple years back, didn't advance hardly at all. I think it's one thing to talk about a regular season 1-2 punch, a regular season pitching staff. I think it's a totally different ball game when you get to October, and I just don't think there's a better 1-2 punch than those guys. When healthy, assuming fully healthy, I don't know who it would be. I'd really have to sit and think who would even be second or a close second for me. Y'all tell me. I haven't spent a lot of time thinking and dreaming up who's the best beyond those two guys, but you guys tell me if I'm missing somebody. Tell me if I'm missing somebody. Who's a better 1-2 punch than Evo and deGrom up top starting in October? What's good, everybody? Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk about Wyatt Langford in a second here. I'll make sure I get to as many comments as possible along the way. Thank you for hanging out. Natalie, what's good? I think Jack has made the team as a long reliever. Jack Leiter has definitely, I think, had a positive spring. I think that's how I would frame it. I think Leiter, it hasn't been perfect, right? I mean, let's not pretend like he's on Emiliano Teodo levels right now in spring, but I do think that Jack Leiter has had a positive spring. I will say this, and I know that some of y'all might take this as a negative or me being a hater, but I do think it's in the best interest of the club, of the franchise, and everybody that covers them, all the beat writers, to try and be as positive about Jack as possible. I mean, there is a public relations side to this. There is a media side to baseball. I think it's in the best interest of everybody involved with the Rangers for, first of all, Jack Leiter to succeed. The guy was a top 3 draft pick 3-4 years ago, whatever it was. It is in the Rangers' best interest, and really the interest of everybody to succeed, for him to succeed, excuse me. But what I have noticed is there's a very positive push in the media when it comes to Jack Leiter. I don't personally think that he's killed it this spring. I'm definitely not quite at the spot where I'm absolutely singing praises. It's hard. I know that the stats are what they are right now. You go to the game log, and he actually has looked really, really good, especially I think in the beginning stages, came out through 2 shutout innings. This was like in late February, right, against the Giants. Had a kind of a rocky start against the Cubs, 3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. And then against San Diego, I think it was like 4 days ago, 3 innings pitched, no earned runs, 3 strikeouts. So you have basically 2 solid outings, 1 outing that was a little bit rough, but still had 4 strikeouts, even in that rough outing against the Cubs. 3 innings, 2 earned runs, gave up a home run as well. I don't think Jack Leiter has had a bad spring. I do think it's been positive, but I feel like I don't see very much negative about Jack Leiter at all. And I do think that there is a very positive push among the Rangers and among those that cover him to try and cover Jack positively. Do with that what you will. It's just what I've noticed. It's just my opinion. I think that Jack Leiter, it's kind of a put up or shut up year for him. And I've said that forever. I think that he needs to show the Rangers fans and the Rangers organization something in the regular season. It's great that you're killing it in the spring, and I want Jack Leiter to do well. Don't get this twisted at all, but I need to see something in the regular season. Does he make the opening day roster as a reliever? I said last show, I think it was about 8 days ago, last Sunday, I said, do you really want to make Jack Leiter at this point a long-term reliever? You've already got guys that could probably fill that role right now. I don't think you need to make Jack Leiter into a long reliever this year. In fact, I would probably rather the Rangers develop Jack Leiter as a starter. And if that means going down to AAA and continuing to start games down there, I think that's fine. I really would rather see Jack Leiter continue to develop as a starting pitcher. That is what you drafted him for. I really don't want to see Jack be relegated to the bullpen. Maybe you could make the argument, you're playing devil's advocate, that Jack's going to continue to get his feet wet with major league batters, that kind of thing. I don't know. I think with a guy like Jack Leiter, you tried the bullpen thing last year. It didn't go awesome. He only got, a couple of starts out in the bullpen. I'd much rather them continue to focus on developing Jack as a starter. And if that means that you get sent down to the minor leagues to begin the year, so be it. It's likely that Jack is probably going to be up pretty quickly. The Rangers, I think it's just tough. 162 games, no pitching injuries. It's really tough. So I think Jack is going to be one of the first up. I feel the same way about Kumar Rocker. I think with Kumar Rocker, you could have him in the bullpen. Do you really want Kumar Rocker to not continue his development as a starting pitcher? So that's where I'm at with Jack Leiter right now. I understand that he easily could be a guy you throw out in the bullpen. Easily could be a guy that you throw out in the pen to begin the year. He gives you some length in the 5th or 6th inning if a starter's struggling. For me, I question that a little bit, and I hope that the Rangers will just continue to develop him as a starting pitcher. I think that it's very likely that he could be on the opening day roster. And if he is, wish him a ton of success. Hope he does awesome for us in the bullpen. But the Rangers have not had the best track record with developing pitchers. Granted, Chris Young, he hasn't been around a crazy long amount of time. So maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh. Maybe it'll be different with Chris Young. But I'd be a little bit hesitant to start toying with Jack Leiter, with Kumar Rocker, and suddenly throwing them into relief roles when clearly the end goal is that those two guys would be staples in your rotation for years to come. Kumar Rocker, by the way, we'll go through his numbers so far. Kumar Rocker's having a tough time this spring. The ERA in 2 games started, 36. He last started a game, I believe, let's see here. Let me pull up the game log. Kumar Rocker, March 1st. So he has not started a game, hasn't played in a game for the Rangers in about 9 days. Both starts allowed 4 earned runs in 1 inning pitch. So only made it 1 inning in both starts, 2 innings total. Opponents hitting well over 500 against Kumar Rocker. Look, this is what I mean. Kumar, clearly a guy maybe in a very, very short stint could be effective out in the bullpen. I think you want to continue to develop this guy as a starting pitcher and give him more time in the minors. We all had really high hopes that Kumar Rocker was going to be a guy that was maybe going to be the 4th or 5th starter, maybe could eventually slide into that number 3 spot in the rotation behind deGrom, behind Evo. But what we're seeing is it's tough when you have a lot of expectations on you. Kumar Rocker still getting back in a groove after a long time off due to injury. It's not clockwork. It's just not for some of these guys. And Kumar Rocker's still young. I definitely think he's got a bright future. Think he's going to be a great asset for the Rangers for years to come. Don't rush it. Do not rush it when it comes to Kumar Rocker. Look, Jack Leiter, I'm in a little bit of a different place. You've had time, and you've been, for the most part, healthy. Jack Leiter, I know, had the mechanics issue. They sent him back to Arizona. What was it, a couple of years ago? Like a year and a half ago? Something like that. I don't think Jack Leiter has had a lot of issues with injury since joining the Rangers. But to me, this is a year where Jack Leiter's got to show you something. And I think you maybe take a little pressure off of him by sending him down to AAA to start the season. Bringing him up, letting him continue to work on things down at Round Rock. Bring him up at sometime in May and sometime in June. Those dog days of summer start approaching. Maybe naturally, with how the rotation works itself out, there's going to be a need that opens up. I do think Jack Leiter is going to get his opportunities this year. Just don't know if I want to see him relegated to a bullpen role or to a long relief role where he's only coming in every 4 or 5 days in mop-up duty. Whether the Rangers are blowing a team out or they're getting blown out. That would just be my opinion on both of those guys. Let me keep going. All right, we got, let me see. I'm trying to work through as much as I can here. A little bit of nonsense I got to work through. Forgive me. Let's see. I know this is just spring training, but it's the best Jack has looked as a pro so far. Totally. Jack Leiter looking probably the best we've ever seen him. Granted, it's spring. Like we talked about, you got to take it with a grain of salt. I don't think it's nothing. I don't think it's everything. I think it's somewhere in between. John, what's good, man? Let's go to deGrom. Are we starting to get concerned with a few of our starters? I know they don't get many ABs in the spring. I hesitate, really hesitate to get super nervous about guys that are veterans. You're working on different stuff as a vet. You're trying to throw new pitches. We got several Rangers pitchers that are trying to learn new pitches and develop. I'm not super concerned about the starting pitchers. I think Evo's going to be fine. deGrom looked really good in his one start so far. I think the starting pitching is going to be fine. The Rangers have a ton of depth at starting pitcher. We just talked about that. I think the Rangers will be all right. Some of the struggles that you've been seeing, some of the numbers that are a little bit ballooned right now, it's hard to say, yeah, guys are just going all out and getting shelled and it's just not good enough. When you are a vet that's been pitching in the league for a long time, I mean, there's so many guys that have talked about this. I'm not just spouting out just whatever I think. Like there's guys on the record who say, yeah, pretty much in the spring, I just throw the 2 pitches that I need to work on the most. Maybe sprinkle in a couple of the others here and there, but I work on the pitches that I need to work on and I need to get better at. And so when you have guys like that really aren't throwing their full arsenal, they're working on it maybe in the in-between times, right? In the off days and in their bullpens on the side. But in games, they're not necessarily always using the full arsenal. So I'm not too concerned about any of the Rangers pitching at this point. Not concerned. But we'll see how the first week of the season goes. That's what it is going to be. How are these guys going to do when opening day hits and the Rangers play their first couple of series? We're going to find out. It's always a little bit interesting to see how the spring training and how the effort and how the performances in spring training carry over into the regular season. I'm excited to see it. For a few of the Rangers, definitely looking for bounce back years. I think a lot of Rangers fans are going to be waiting with bated breath to see how some of these guys in 2024 who had down years bounce back once the season begins. Now, we keep going. I am going to try and catch up at TikTok best I can. Shoot, sorry about y'all. I know I've been neglecting you guys. I'm going to see if I can get caught up here. I feel like Josh Smith isn't getting enough love this offseason coming off a Silver Slugger campaign. I agree, and I think it's just because with Josh Smith, you saw him kind of taper off a little bit. At the end of the year, you did. You saw Josh Smith lose a little bit of steam. I talked about it on the show a multitude of times during the end of the regular season and even in the offseason. We've talked about last year, 2024 was the most games Josh Smith has ever played in. And I think you saw him run out of gas. I don't think that long-term it's something that's going to be really a big worry. I think Josh Smith is going to have a great 2025. I don't know if he's going to be able to duplicate the start that he had, but I do think now that Josh Smith has gone through the grind of a season, I think that he is going to be better prepared to handle an increased workload. I think what you saw is Josh Smith taper off a little bit in August and in September, still had some big moments sprinkled in there. But in terms of consistency, which extremely consistent right at the very beginning of 2024, I mean, literally Josh Smith carried the team at the beginning of 2024 at different times with all of the injuries to the starting lineup that the Rangers suffered. But I do think this year, Bochy, others have been on record, they want Josh Smith in there 4, 5, 6 times a week getting a start. Like, I don't think you're going to see Josh Smith 7 days a week, but I do think you are going to see Josh Smith in a prominent role, filling in, giving guys days off out in the field. I definitely believe in Josh Smith and think that he is going to have a very solid 2025 campaign. But I do agree. I think there is a little bit of a lack of love being shown with Josh Smith. Yes, Silver Slugger campaign, definitely. I just think that the lackluster end of the season, Josh Smith struggled at different times late in the year, and it's tough. You had a lot of different factors. Right? The team was not going anywhere at a certain point in August and September. It's hard to put guys' feet to the fire. Why weren't you producing when the club had been eliminated already, from playoff contention? Like, these guys are getting paid a lot of money. So I know some people's rebuttal to that might be, you should be giving it your all every day. You're getting paid hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. It's a little bit more complex than that. For me, if a guy tapers off a little bit at the end of a lost season, which last year was, I really don't think we can hold that against them too much. But I think had Josh Smith really continued up on that incline, I think we would have seen him a little bit more prominently featured in this offseason heading into the 2025 season. I mean, the real ones know, right? The real ones, the diehards, we know about Josh Smith. But I do think in the media, you would have seen a bigger push with him. You would have seen him covered a little bit more had he finished August and September on a tear. Keep going here. Spring training is important. Obviously, put a limit on guys who are going to be starters. Totally. And the starting pitchers, especially the vets, they're working on different things. can't really hold spring training against certain guys. The young guys, I think you do have to judge a little bit more harshly. The young guys are trying to make the team, right? They're trying to make the opening day roster. So I do think you can be a little bit more judgmental with some of the young guys. Yes, it's a bit of a double standard, but I do think that's how it goes. You're trying to make the roster, you're going to get judged a little more harshly. You're a double-digit year vet, like Nate Eovaldi and others. Yeah, you're probably going to get a little bit more slack because your body, how to ramp things up. You know what you need going into a season, and you know what you need to use spring training for. So I do think that's the most accurate assessment I could make in regards to evaluating players for spring training. The guys that got to make the roster, of course, you got to judge them harder than the deGroms, the Evos, guys that are going to be there, that are getting paid a lot of money already. And even with a little bit of a down spring, are still going to be right there up at the top of the rotation. We keep going. Rangers one-hit wonders. Yeah, I definitely think anything can happen in baseball. It is a weird game, but it would really surprise me if the Rangers did not have a good season this year. What does good mean? Make the playoffs. It would really surprise me if the Rangers did not make the playoffs this year. Rangers right now, by the way, Baseball Prospectus, Rangers continue to rise in the rankings. Right now, according to Baseball Prospectus, the PECOTA, I think I got that right. It's like PECOTA. It's something weird like that. I don't know. Baseball Prospectus, their little analytical ranking system. Rangers have the second strongest chance to win the World Series behind the Dodgers. I mean, look, I know Vegas isn't giving them the love that they're getting in some of these projections, but I do think the Rangers are going to be a 90-win team this year. It would really surprise me if they didn't make the playoffs. Are they going to repeat from 2023? I don't think that I would be necessarily proclaiming that from the rooftops as much as I want to as a fan of the team for decades, but I do think that they have a very good chance. I think that they win the West this year, and it's not going to surprise me to see a team like this go deep into the playoffs. How deep, we'll see, but one-hit wonders, nah. Hope deGrom is healthy, absolutely. What else we got? Who will the Texas Rangers beat in the World Series this year? I like the thinking there. Got to be the Dodgers. I mean, that's got to be the pick. Rangers over Dodgers. If you are thinking that the Rangers are going to win the World Series. Look, isn't it kind of crazy? We talked about the Dodgers a little bit on the show throughout the offseason. Of course, we're going to talk about all things baseball here. And I'm not a big Dodgers fan. Full disclosure, I wouldn't label myself a Dodgers hater either. I do appreciate greatness. And I've said this on the show so many times. Like, there's a lot of very likable players on the Dodgers. They're, to me, not easy to, not easy to hate on, if that makes sense. Like, I can't really easily hate on the Dodgers. Maybe because they spend so much money, but it's not like they've got a bunch of villains on that team. It's a bunch of pretty likable, nice dudes that are really good at baseball. But I will say the Dodgers, when you think about their playoff run, they were one game away from elimination in San Diego last postseason. And a lot of people forget about that. Now, make the argument that they bolstered up the rotation and the lineup, which I think they did this offseason. But the Dodgers were one game away from getting eliminated last year. That is the beauty of baseball. You can have a juggernaut team. You can have a team that on paper looks like nobody's going to beat them. The Padres had, game 4 in San Diego with a chance to eliminate the Dodgers from the playoffs, and they couldn't get it done. The Dodgers had a bullpen game, I think, in game 4. Like, they threw bullpen guys in an elimination game. Look, credit to the Dodgers. I'm not taking away anything from the Dodgers, but it just goes to show you how crazy of a game baseball can be. Dodgers were one game away on the brink of elimination in San Diego, doing a bullpen game in a playoff do-or-die game, and credit to them. They got it done. They won in San Diego that night. They won game 5 when they went back to LA, and the rest is history. But that just shows you how close you can get season over, regardless of the good team that you have. By the way, a lot of other good teams in the NL. I think that there are going to be a number of teams giving the Dodgers some problems. I think the Diamondbacks, I like the squad the Diamondbacks have. I definitely think that you've got some teams in the NL East that are very much worthwhile. The Phillies are always kind of going to be there. I said on the show last week, I don't know if this Phillies team is really ever going to get over the hump. Feels like in 2023, that was their opportunity. Couldn't beat the Diamondbacks, who would go on to play the Rangers in that World Series. Braves are probably going to be right up there again, too. The Mets. Like, there's going to be some competition for the Dodgers in the NL. But that's my 2 cents on who the Rangers are going to beat in the World Series. We keep going. Let me see here. What's up from Lubbock, Texas? Oh, let's go. Red Raiders. I see you. All right. So we got a couple of other things. Josh and Jace had some good years over here. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. By the way, I know this is something super nerdy, but I wanted to tell y'all about this. So on X, I don't know how many of y'all are on X, formerly Twitter. You know that they have some different sports accounts that it's like StatMuse accounts. If you're familiar with the website or the app StatMuse, I'm actually running now a Josh Young Muse for StatMuse. So if y'all want to follow, it's Josh Young Muse over on X, formerly Twitter. I'm trying to get my feet wet with it a little bit. I've made a few posts here and there, but it's kind of going to be a Josh Young #1 source for different stats and news and highlights, accomplishments, all that kind of stuff. Josh Young, one of my favorite Texas Rangers players. Corey Seager, probably #1. Josh Young, probably #2. We're not ranking, by the way, Rangers players in any order here in terms of skill, ability, accomplishments. Just players we like. We've all got our favorites. Corey Seager, Josh Young, 1, 2 for me. Probably Evo, deGrom after that. It's hard, man. I could probably list a bunch of dudes that are my favorites on the Rangers. I want to see everybody do well and succeed. But by the way, Josh Young Muse, go follow it on X. But I just got triggered when I saw that Lubbock, Texas shout out. Mariners have the best pitching staff in MLB, Castillo and Gilbert. Yeah, but not when it comes to the postseason. Like, I don't put Gilbert and Castillo over deGrom and over Evo. I don't know. Those guys to me are not tested enough in the playoffs. I'm not taking Castillo and Gilbert over deGrom and Evo in October. In the regular season, maybe, but not in October. 2-part question here. How many games do you think the Rangers win? Already kind of answered that. I'm going to go 90 plus. Why do I think under 65? I don't know if I quite get that last part, but Rangers 90 wins for sure. My Braves coming to Arlington in July should be fun. Oh, yeah. Braves, Rangers, that's going to be a good series. We keep going. Let's see. Great 2 innings pitch for deGrom the other day. Yes, sir. What are we going to do with Josh Smith? Play him at least 4 to 6 times a week, according to Bochy. Josh Smith having a pretty good spring. I don't know if I got the stats pulled up for Josh Smith right now, but I'm going to see if I can get him. I think Josh Smith, last time I looked, having a really pretty solid spring. Let me go to the main stats for the entire team here for spring. So we got, in terms of averages, Josh Smith, where are you at? Oh, my goodness. How it always goes on the fly. 240 average in the spring so far. So, look, took a little bit of a dip. I feel like he was up in the 300s maybe about a week ago. These averages are going to fluctuate quite a bit. So, look, take it for what it's worth. Right now, though, Rangers players doing really, really well. We'll throw out some names. Higashioka, Higgy, hitting .412. Kyle Higashioka, you might see him take over the starting job if Jonah Heim does not pick it up. Like, I think they're going to give Jonah Heim every opportunity to get a chance to prove himself and bounce back. But Higgy hitting 412 and couple of homers, 8 RBI. Hello. By the way, I don't think anybody had Nick Ahmed leading the Rangers in RBI in spring training. Look, it's Nick Ahmed and Kyle Higashioka leading the Rangers, 8 RBIs apiece between those guys. Let's see who else we got here. I haven't actually done a dive on spring training stats. Like, you see a couple of different numbers flash by here and there on the updates. And look, the spring training games, they have kind of been spotty with broadcasting. And I get to hear some of the games on the radio, but I got to be honest, I do a lot more box score watching in the spring just because the games aren't always available. Or they're in the middle of the day when you're working. Look, Jock Peterson, a couple of home runs, 182 average. That's, I think, a little bit notable. But again, a veteran guy. I'm not going to say I'm worried about Jock. Abimelec Ortiz, 11 at-bats, 455 batting average. Home run, 3 RBI. Corey Seager hitting 130. You just don't like to see this, right? You don't like to see 130 next to Corey Seager's name, 172 next to Marcus Simeon's name. Josh Smith, we already talked about 240. Walcott, not a lot of at-bats, but 444 batting average and 9 ABs. Who else? Tucker Barnhart, man, 389 average for him. Good for him. Blaine Krim, 294 average, but I think they just sent Blaine Krim down. They sent a bunch of guys down. That was the other thing I wanted to talk about on the show today. They sent a number of guys down. So let's go through that list, by the way. I know we're jumping around a little bit all over the place. Let me get back to a couple of comments here. Certain guys need to start hitting well, Evan, or we might be seeing a lot more of Leote. Oh, maybe. I just feel like Leote is a little bit like purgatory. Like you're going to get something from Leote, but that something is going to be like a 220 batting average. And it's going to be like June. And we're going to be like, this feels exactly like last year. I don't know. I do not have as high hopes for Leote Taveras as the Rangers front office does. But maybe this is the year. We keep getting told that Leote keeps making and keeps needing to take the next steps. I don't know. But Harry, what's good? I see you made a few comments, man. I wanted to get something. The competition, should there really be one? Like, for me, Leote has plenty of ABs in the professional league and in the major leagues. I don't think that you really need to have Leote and Evan Carter be competing. I think it's Evan Carter's turn. I do know that Leote, and this is a good point, Leote's only 26. Totally get it. But my 2 cents, you've given Leote 2 seasons of almost playing every day, right? He nearly played every day, it felt like. Last year, they started platooning him against lefties. 2023, you got a lot of games from Leote. And look, he had a pretty bad 2023 postseason. A couple of highlight plays here and there. Robbing Yordan Alvarez. I don't think anybody's going to forget that play. Hitting the home run off, I think it was Justin Verlander in the Astros series. I think Leote had like 1 hit in the entire World Series. I don't think the average was great. For me, Leote has kind of been given his chance. I'd like to see Evan Carter get his chance to play almost every day. That is just my opinion. Leote, I don't think that he's washed. I don't think that he's terrible. I just think what you've seen from Leote is a guy that's probably going to hit below 250, is going to have flashes of brilliance out in the outfield, and occasionally a head-scratching play where you're like, what the heck were you thinking? I think we saw a few of those from Leote in 2024. But I think the point's well taken. He's young, but I think at the same time, he's been given a lot of solid opportunities. And now I'd like to see the reins get taken off of Evan Carter. I'd like to see EC really get an opportunity to play every day. We'll see if the Rangers give it to him. I think they're going to take it slow out of spring training and into the start of the regular season. But when I look up in May or June, I'd really like to see Evan Carter getting in the lineup almost every day, even if there's a lefty up there. A top prospect, platoon player, I just don't think you can say those two things in the same sentence. All right, we keep going. We keep going. We keep going. We got a little bit of an update here on the roster. So let's check it out here. Several players optioned yesterday to the minors. You had Cole Winn, you had Jacob Latz and Walter Pennington, all optioned to AAA Round Rock. Winston Santos was optioned to AA Frisco. Blaine Krim, Michael Plasmeyer were reassigned to minor league camp. So all of those guys eliminated from opening day roster contention. So again, we start to kind of trim the fat a little bit of the roster with 2.5 weeks left here of spring training. We will definitely see what other cuts are made, but I don't think there's a lot of surprises there. Maybe Jacob Latz, because you definitely want to have lefty options. Clearly, you've got Robert Garcia out there. And I think the Rangers, you definitely can make it with one or two guys, lefties out in the bullpen. Latz maybe would be the biggest surprise there to me. Cole Winn, not shocking. Pennington, maybe you could throw Pennington in there as a little bit of a surprise. Blaine Krim, I don't think that he was ever really going to have a chance to make the roster with Jake Berger and with some other guys already getting time at first base, Jock Peterson. You're not going to carry a first baseman on your bench. You're going to carry a guy like Josh Smith, Ezekiel Duran, guys that can play all over the place. You're definitely not having a first baseman sit on your bench if you can help it. So, not shocking. Blaine Krim gets sent down. We'll see here. Let's see. Evan Grant noted, and we kind of talked about this, a little bit of a murky center field situation. Evan Carter's platoon tendencies. Adolis Garcia, his early struggles raising questions. Garcia, of course, had the oblique injury. Kevin Pillar definitely providing a little bit of flexibility in the mix there, but definitely a storyline. I think a lot of Rangers fans are looking at this outfield situation and just kind of wondering what is going to be the final outcome here. By the way, we look at Evan Carter's numbers. Carter, 20 at-bats, batting 150. So you can see why there's some concern. Ezekiel Duran batting 118. Man, look, there's not a lot of Rangers starters that are just killing it in spring training. There's not. But I do think this lineup could easily be one of the best in baseball if you've got guys playing up to their potential. Like, stack this Rangers lineup against just about anybody in the big leagues. Like the Dodgers, I think you'd rate a little bit higher. And then I think it starts getting really questionable. Who's like 2, who's 3, who's 4, who's 5. I think Rangers have a top 5 lineup in baseball if everybody lives up to the expectations. All right, we keep going. Let's see. By the way, Dolly's numbers. Let me check this out here. Let me see if I can pull this up. Adolis and what he's hitting so far this spring. I don't think I covered him when I was running through all the stat lines. It's not on this page for whatever reason. Crazy. All right. We'll figure it out. I'll get those stats to you in a second here. We'll take more comments on TikTok. But yeah, for whatever reason, Adolis not on the stat page. So I don't know what's up with that. And I'm on MLB.com too. The West is ours. Totally agreed. We keep going. Can't wait to see Wyatt match Evan Carter. That's the dream. That's the dream for sure. Oh, here's Dolly. 316, 19 at bats. So Adolis Garcia actually having probably the best spring besides Kyle Higashioka in terms of Rangers starters. If Dolly can hit well, he doesn't have to hit 316. Just give me 250 with 30 bombs and 95 to 100 RBI. I'll take that. I will 100% take that. We keep going. Dodgers back-to-back, maybe. On paper, sure. But you got to play the game. Leody going to get traded. I don't know what they're going to do with Leody Taveras. Evan Carter versus lefties is concerning. I'm not going to lie. It is, but again, this is a top prospect. Like, you've got to take the training wheels off at some point and let Evan Carter have a couple of months to just work it all out. And you just deal with it. You can stick him down at the bottom of the order. He does have other intangibles. So even if the bat isn't there, you've got a guy that can play good defense out in the field. You've got a guy that is speedy on the base pass. If you're not hitting, clearly you can't steal first base, but I do think that you've got to give Evan Carter a little bit of a long runway. You just don't feel like they've really done that for a guy that was pretty instrumental in helping you win a World Series. And I'm not trying to say that the Rangers aren't treating him well, but in my mind, Evan Carter helped you win your first World Series. I give the man a little bit of a long runway. Clearly, coming back from the injury, I think that there's going to be a slow ramp up with Evan Carter. But that's what I want to see them do for him. We keep going. Let's see here. Bro, I'm a Giants fan. Don't know much about your team, how they look in. Hopefully my breakdown so far has helped answer that question. What do I think about the bullpen? Seems like a bunch of underrated guys that we're relying on. That to me is kind of what happened last year, though. We went into last year thinking that the Rangers had just a bunch of guys that had maybe some potential, but were kind of a little bit maybe over the hill. Like, I don't think anybody was like all over the Kirby Yates signing. I don't think anybody was, parading when they signed David Robertson. But those turned into really, really good players for the Rangers. So I do think that some guys that the Rangers have signed, your Armstrongs, Hobie Milner, guys like that, JT Chagua, I think that you're going to see some guys surprise you. I really do. And by the way, talking about pitching, let's see if we can go through some pitching numbers here. So we'll go through the big notables. John Gray, by the way, having a really good spring. John Gray, 0.8 ERA in 5 innings pitched, 2 starts. John Gray looking pretty good so far. Sean Armstrong, a 2 ERA, 3 innings pitched. Hobie Milner, 2.63 ERA so far this spring. Teodo looks like he is at, oh shoot, my bad, y'all. ERA, that was whips. Okay, Teodo, 0 ERA. Hobie Milner's gotten hit around a little bit. My bad on that. Armstrong, 3 ERA. John Gray has not allowed a run yet this spring. So 0.8 whip on John Gray. This is looking a little bit better. Curvelo, 4.50 ERA. Tyler Mahle, 3 ERA. Dane Dunning, 3 ERA. Garabito, 3.18. Mark Church, 3.60. Cody Bradford, 2. We talked about Leiter, 2.25. Evo slacking a little bit, man. Evo with the 7 ERA. So, look, it's hard to just cherry pick the stats like this. Who's going to have a great regular season? But there we go. There are some guys out in the bullpen, though, that I think are doing a nice job. JT Chagua, 2 innings pitched, no earned runs. I think that's a guy that I would be using in those high leverage situations late. JT Chagua had a great year last year. I think that was a sneaky good little pickup. We'll see how it goes. We keep going. Let's see. Dodgers got lucky. I don't know if I would say Dodgers got lucky, but I will say Dodgers got a good squad. It's going to be tough to beat them. We keep going. Man, I hate it when it always does this. It's like, I press it weird and then it like scrolls me all the way down and I miss all those comments. We're backtracking a little bit. Do I get paid for Josh Young Muse? No, I don't. Right now, it's just something that I'm doing on the side for fun. I think eventually if the account gets enough eyes on it, then X starts paying you naturally. But at this point, nope. Free, kind of like what I do right now, honestly. I think I made like my first $100. Like my first $100 at some point late last year. It's not much, but it's what I love. It's more for me of an outlet than anything, a fun time talking with fans. Definitely not in this for the money. I hope maybe one day it can turn into that, but definitely not in this for the money at this point. Love of the game. And I hope to never sell out, even if I get to a point where things start picking up a little bit more in that area. Josh Smith won't be on the team end of the year. Hopefully, if he's not, we got something really, really good for him at the deadline. That would be the only way that I wouldn't want Josh Smith on the team at the end of 2025. We better have gotten a really nice little package for Josh Smith if that's the case. Was I able to get the hat before they? Oh, yeah. I don't know. Have y'all seen the hats that they came out with, like where they had like Texas overlaid and then the T uh, and the middle? Yeah, it was pretty funny actually with some of the different ones that they made up. I really don't know who greenlit that at Fanatics, but I shoot your shot, right? But for me, no, wasn't a big time fan of the hat. It would have been fun to get it, but I will say I think that they're probably going to be taking those ones down. Maybe they'll actually put the order out for them. I don't know. Thoughts on the Rangers not having a Pride night? Oh, we're getting a little feisty on the show today. Look, I say, and I've said this with really everybody that I've ever talked to about this issue. I think personally that the team can do whatever it wants to do. I don't think that the team needs to make any kind of political statement one way or the other. I know that all the different nights that they have, you might be wondering why don't they do that kind of night? I don't know. I don't think the team has ever come out and really said anything one way or the other, at least strongly. But for me, I don't really think that a lot of those types of nights are necessary, anyways. I know that they have like Christian night, for example, and then they have like different colleges and nights like that. I don't know. I tend to think if you're a good enough ball club, you really don't need all the gimmick nights as a part of your PR. But that's just my opinion. I don't know. A certain night never gets me to the ballpark. Like I don't go to the ballpark because it's Texas Longhorns night. I go to the ballpark because I'm ready to watch a really good baseball team play. So I can't say that I have a strong opinion on the issue. I do think that the Rangers are going to do absolutely whatever they want to do. And I don't really think that it should be anything that really causes a lot of hate towards the team. Who cares? It's a gimmick night on a random June, July evening. Like, I don't know. The gimmick nights never really do it for me. So maybe you're asking the wrong person. But definitely not a social justice warrior or anything like that. Don't claim to be. So you're probably asking someone that doesn't have a super strong opinion. You might need to go elsewhere for a hot take on Rangers Pride Night. But that's my 2 cents. We keep going. Jonah Heim will be defensive catcher only and lose job. Look, even the defense for Jonah Heim was like a little bit iffy last year at times. I do think Jonah Heim's got a pretty short leash. Like I don't know that he is going to be given a long runway. We were talking about long runways with Evan Carter. I don't think Jonah Heim is going to be getting a super long runway. I would be really surprised. Really, really surprised. All right, we keep going. Over under 85.5 wins. Over. West is going to be fun again this year. Go Stros. I mean, define fun, maybe close, I think. I think it's going to be close, but I don't know how good the West is going to be in comparison to other divisions. I don't think that the West is probably going to be looked upon favorably again this year. The West was kind of the butt of all jokes last year, if you remember. You had like all the teams in the AL East that were killing it. You had teams in the Central that were doing really, really well also. And then you had a bunch of teams that were looking pretty mediocre at times in the West. So for me, I don't know that the West is going to be the talk of baseball, but I think it'll be a pretty close race all the way around. We keep going. I wish I had your hopes for my team. Pain of being a Rockies fan. Rockies, man, it just goes to show you, like, in 2007, was it? 2007, the Rockies went to the World Series. There was so much hype, too. I remember I went to a really small college in Nebraska, played baseball there. I don't wish playing baseball in Nebraska on anybody. I love my time with my teammates and I loved my time playing, but you're playing like in February in like 30-degree weather. It's not an awesome place climate wise to play ball. I did love my experience personally beyond the weather, but I'll say this, like, seriously, I remember that 2007 year. Ton of guys that I played with were huge Rockies fans. And that was, I think, just such a huge opportunity for them. It just goes to show you, you never know when you're going to make it back to the World Series. You've got to relish it. Rangers fans, you know this already from 2010 and 2011. Rockies, I hope that franchise is good again. I know that they've had some pretty bad years in the 2020s. Rockies are definitely a fun team. I think about the 90s Rockies, late 90s Rockies with Todd Helton and Dante Bichette and all those guys. I really hope the Rockies can one day get their footing again and be competitive, make the playoffs. I do think that the fans there are awesome when the team is actually good. That atmosphere in 2007 for those playoffs was phenomenal. Watching that run that they made all the way to the World Series. So I wish the Rockies nothing but the best. AL West rankings: Rangers, Astros, Mariners, A's, Angels. I think that the A's are going to surprise some people this year. I don't really feel that the Angels are going to do the same thing. It's kind of a believe it when I see it for the Angels. I just don't think that they are going to piece it together at any point. And they know a couple of additions here or there, but still not super high on the Angels. I actually feel better about the A's than I do about the Angels this year. We keep going. Astros all day. Nah. Cody, what's good, man? Go Rangers. I did see the new Texas hat. It'd be fun to get it as a novelty. I don't think that I would proudly wear the new hat. Maybe to be funny, but that's about it. We keep going. I think Emiliano could shape to be a good closer. Looks like it, but I think he's kind of a long shot at this point to make the roster. I think you would have to have a number of guys either really, really suck at the beginning of the year or maybe some injuries. I think Teodo is going to be a guy kind of like we talked about with Rocker. I don't rush it. Yes, we're seeing great things in the spring, but don't rush it. No need to. Osuna makes the team. I could see Osuna definitely being a late year call up. By the way, Osuna, this spring training, let's see what the numbers are like on him so far. I don't think we talked about him or called his number. Page 2. Getting me. Let's see. Where is he? Okay, here he is. 435 and 23 ABs. Osuna, look, he really impressed a lot of people last year. Minor league player of the year, Alejandro Osuna was. I don't know if he is going to make the roster. I just think that there's too many outfielders right now. But I do think you could see him get called up at the end of the year, especially if he keeps tearing the cover off the ball in the minor leagues. But, I mean, what do you do with Osuna right now? I mean, you've got Wyatt Langford, you've got Jock, you've got Garcia, you've got Evan Carter, you've got Leote, you've arguably got Josh Smith and Ezekiel Duran. Like, where does Alejandro Osuna really fit in? You would have to start trimming some fat, and maybe, again, there's some guys that go down or they're really struggling, and maybe an Osuna call-up makes sense. But for me, it doesn't look like he's got a super clear path, even though he is absolutely killing it this spring. I think he leads all Rangers with 10 hits. Granted, I mean, he's up there with the at-bats, tops, and ABs. I think he's got 23 ABs in the spring. I think that ranks top 10, but Osuna definitely having a great spring training. Excited about him. Minor league player of the year last year. Absolutely think he's got a bright future, but I think it's going to be a tough path making the opening day roster. If Rangers stay healthy, they're going to be a problem. Absolutely. I may go to a Rangers game this season. I try to go to one every year. Usually I make it to the ones out in California, like if they play the Dodgers in LA or if they play the Angels in LA. For all of y'all that are watching for the first time, or maybe you've never caught it, I live out in Las Vegas. So anytime the Rangers are on the West Coast, we always try and go over to a game. When the A's get to Vegas, it's going to be a lot easier to catch Rangers games. I am really looking forward to that. That's for sure. Harris, what's good, man? We kind of talked about this already, but I'll recap it. So I think Jack Leiter, if it's me, I'm not putting him out in the bullpen. Either he starts or you send him down to AAA to continue to get more starts. I just think with a guy like that, a first round, number 2 overall pick, like, do you really want to relegate him to the bullpen at this point? Or do you want to continue his journey in development as a starter and as a guy that's going to be a staple in your starting rotation for years to come? That'd be the route I would go. I think you've got other guys in the bullpen, other veterans that you can have in that long man role, in that long relief role. I don't think that you've got to have Leiter in that spot. And I think it's okay he goes back to AAA. If he continues to dominate this spring, maybe he makes it hard for him. But if it's me, I'm sending him back to AAA if I'm not going to have him in the starting rotation. Keep going. Yankees pitchers right now. Yeah, Garrett Cole going out with Tommy John surgery. Rough. Really rough. I don't wish that upon anybody. We dealt with it, though, with Jacob deGrom. So, look, and I'm not saying you were, by the way, but I never cheer for stuff like that. I want the best players, even though we all hate the Yankees. I want the best players to play. It makes the game better all the way around, makes the product better. So, definitely, even though it's for the hated Yankees, I'm not going to pretend or not going to sit around here and think that that's like an awesome thing. Like, I wish Garrett Cole was still playing ball. So I feel for him. Yankees are definitely going to be worse off for not having him. No doubt. Yankees, I don't know. I know that they added Bellinger, lost Soto. I'm not sure the Yankees are going to be having a super special season. Maybe they hang in there and catch a wild card spot, but it doesn't look super promising for them. We keep going. AL wide open. That's what I'm saying. Like with the Rangers and all the people that are saying like one hit wonder, or all the people that are not really giving them a chance. Like there's not a super dominant team in the AL right now. There's not. AL Central, you've got the Guardians, who definitely are a quality, solid team, but not unbeatable. The Twins, the Royals. I love what the Royals are doing. Again, do the Royals feel unbeatable? No. Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox, none of those teams feel unbeatable to me either. I do think the AL West is wide open. I think that is a great point. 100%. Let's see. Man, how many times have we talked about Leote? Dude, it's like crazy for a week or two. Ice cold the rest of the time. John, Leote is a hot topic if you're still hanging out, man. I couldn't agree more. I think that the Rangers probably should have traded Leote when he was at his peak, probably in the summer of 2023. You remember both Duran and Leote in June were hitting like over 300 in 2023. And I said right then, trade those guys. Like they're not going to have super prominent roles. There's other guys that you can bring up in the minor leagues. Evan Carter was coming up at that point. And look, right now, the Rangers have a lot of good outfielders. For me, I've seen all I need to see from Leote. I'm not saying that he's washed or terrible, but I just think, who would you rather have playing right now? This is like the test that I do. Like, would you rather have Osuna right now as your starter or Leote? Let's just let that sit for a second. Like for me, there's no question. I'd rather have Osuna. If you're going to give me the option, either one or the other, I'm taking Alejandro Osuna over Leody Taveras right now. It doesn't really matter to me. And I know the comment that maybe some of you are going to have. Oh, good. I see it right here. Somebody said, I don't know if Osuna's ready. I don't know if Osuna is going to do worse than 220, though. 225, whatever Leody ended up having. Like, to me, I don't think Osuna is going to do any worse than Leody out there. I feel like Osuna is definitely a guy that I'd rather have over Leody Taveras, but maybe there's some people that would much rather have Leody. But that's the test I do. Leody, Osuna, I'm taking Osuna. Leody, Evan Carter, give me Evan Carter. So when you start comparing the side-by-sides, I don't get why Leody continues to be a mainstay, but maybe, like I said, this is going to be the year where the front office just totally gets proven right, and we all have to eat crow on Leody. I'm not going to be upset about that, by the way. If he kills it this year, that's good news for Rangers Nation. So no complaints. Leody does well. I'm not rooting for him to fail. Somebody said, give me Harris over Leody. Look, agreed. I'd rather have Dustin Harris. I'd rather him get time. We said it with Harry's comment from YouTube earlier. Leody isn't the worst baseball player on the planet, but he's been given 2 years of consistent playing time, and you haven't seen anything from him but mediocre. So why not give one of these young outfielders a chance? Just saying. All right. We keep going, and let's see if I got anything else. Y'all know I take a bunch of notes before these shows, things worth mentioning, things worth going over. Let's see if I got anything. Let's see. A former MLB executive predicted Rangers would win the West in 2025. Upgraded roster cited potential for better injury luck. After Houston's dominance in recent years, high expectations for Texas after the 2023 World Series run and the 2024 letdown. Let's see. We talked about Walcott continuing to impress. We talked about quite a bit today, y'all. Whew. Let me see. We talked about deGrom and Langford. Langford, by the way, I think 2 for 5 so far in the spring. Good to see Langford hitting, and good to see him back on the ball field. Little injury scare with Langford. I'm not even going to lie. I have like PTSD with these notifications that I get. A Garcia oblique injury, Langford injury, going to miss the start of spring training. Like, did any of y'all have PTSD like from those notifications we all get on our phones from ESPN and all that? Like, no, don't start the injury stuff already. So I'm glad Wyatt's back. Hopefully Adolis Garcia right now projected that he'll be back for opening day. So I think crisis averted in those categories, but it was not nice seeing those injury updates come across my phone a week or so ago. I don't know about you guys. Look, something cool that I saw, and I'm not really shocked, but Jake Berger, I think this was about 5 days ago. Rangers showcased their team culture a little bit, supporting Jake Berger, first baseman, of course, for the Rangers. Infant daughter of Jake Berger recently underwent heart surgery. During a hitters meeting, the team presented Berger with a really thoughtful gesture. They didn't reveal exactly what went on. I don't know if any of y'all caught it, but they were a little bit private about the gesture. But I love seeing things like that going into a season. The family atmosphere and environment. These guys got to see each other a ton. And it was just heartwarming to see stuff like that, especially for a guy that's brand new to the club. Jake Berger doing pretty decent so far, I would say, in the spring. Couple of home runs from Berg. Hopefully he gives a much-needed pop from the first base position. Nate Lowe, I think, is going to be missed. By the way, Nate Lowe doing a little bit of talking this offseason. Nothing crazy. I'm not trying to get clicks or stir the pot, but they were interviewing him about, I think it was AJ Pierzynski interviewing Nate Lowe just about what it's going to be like to go back and play Texas. And Nate, of course, was like, Yeah, I want to beat those guys. Nate's awesome, though. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about him at all, but Nate Lowe will be missed. He was just a great clubhouse presence, great glove. You wish that the bat could have just had a little more pop, been a little bit more consistent. I think what you saw last year with Nate Lowe, poor beginning to the year, really, really solid finish to the year, though. Hopefully, Robert Garcia, which is what the Rangers got for Nate Lowe, will end up being a really, really solid addition to the bullpen. And we wish Nate Lowe nothing but the best in Washington. We'll see how the Nats do this year. All right, y'all. What else we got? Heim or Higgy? I got to go Higgy. But I know that they're going to do Heim, Higgy, platoon thing. I just think if Higgy continues to hit, which he did last postseason with San Diego, had a huge home run in that Dodgers series, did Kyle Higashioka. I think Jonah Heim is going to find himself on the outside looking in for playing time if he doesn't start swinging the bat. As much as Jonah Heim was a staple in that 2023 team, if he doesn't start hitting, you are going to see Kyle Higashioka take over. No doubt. I think that Higgy absolutely is going to take over the starting catching role. You'll still see him probably, maybe play 3 out of 4 games. You would imagine Heim is still going to get at least 1 out of 4 if it does go Kyle Higashioka's way. But with Higgy hitting like this in the spring, again, we've said this so many times, it's not everything, but it's not nothing. It's definitely something. I know that that's a mouthful, but I know that the real ones know what I mean. Spring training is definitely a time where we overhype certain things and maybe undersell. And I think that we're going to all have to see what happens when opening day kicks off and the Rangers play their first few series. But I'm pretty high on Kyle Higashioka. Thanks for the follows, by the way. I see a bunch of people that followed during the show. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Garcia's already taking BP. Thank you for that update. I think Garcia going to be ready for opening day. Having a good spring training so far. Man, it would be nice to have Dolly bounce back in a, not even like a huge way, but just like a couple steps above where he was last year. Like, give me, again, 30 homers, 95 to 100 RBI. Give me a 250, 260 average. Like, I don't need him to hit 300 and drive in 125. I'll take it. But just give me like a little better than last year. I don't think that you need him to go back to 2023 mode for this team to do well. Give me somewhere in between 2023 and 2024. That's all. I'm not trying to be greedy with Adolis Garcia. All right. I think we're going to wrap things up here, y'all. I'll go back here and check out YouTube one last time. Texas Repo, what's good? We've already had a couple comments like this. I don't know if you're still hanging out, but I disagree. I think the Rangers are going to have a good season. I know that the commonly used trolled expression with the Rangers is one hit wonder. I don't see it. Are they going to win a World Series this year? No. I don't think that the Rangers are going to necessarily be a lock for World Series. I'm not expecting that. Do I hope for that with all my heart? 100%. Do I think right now they're a lock for the World Series? No. Like, I am slightly reasonable. The fandom and the homerness takes over eventually, but no, a World Series championship is not like burned in my mind right now as my number one prediction. I absolutely hope it happens. But look, a lot of teams I think would be considered one-hit wonders if we're just grading the Rangers based on whether or not they're going to win another one. Back-to-back hasn't happened since what? The Yankees? I don't know. I think the Dodgers might challenge. Maybe the Dodgers get back-to-back, but there's a reason why that hasn't happened. All right, we keep going. Let's go Dodgers. Somebody says, hey, everybody's welcome here. Everybody's welcome here. No beef with the Rangers. Beef is with the Asterisks. The Asterisks, yes. That is definitely my beef as well. So we can bond over that. Like I said, everybody is welcome here. Rangers fans, obviously, highly, highly preferred and loved on the show, but we love everybody here at Right on Rangers. Evan Carter going to break out? We'll see. That's the big question. Not having an awesome spring, but, coming off the injury, I don't know how hard he can really be with EC. I think he's going to take a little while to warm up. Thoughts on the Luka trade? Didn't love the Luka trade. Was willing to give it a shot, unlike some people. Like, I love the Mavs. Never going to stop loving the Mavs, but didn't love the Luka trade. Luka was probably my favorite player. Still kind of is, but now that he's on the Lakers, it just feels wrong. Like, I hate that I have to look at Lakers games just to see how my favorite player is doing, because the Lakers are probably the team that I despise in the NBA more than any other. So for me, didn't like the trade, willing to give it a chance. They looked pretty good with AD for the 3 quarters that they had him. But no, wasn't a huge fan of the trade, but definitely not loving all of the dramatics that I'm seeing from certain fans. Like, I get you're upset, but at the end of the day, it's sports. Like, we love sports, but I'm not trying to tie my sports fandom to one team. If the Rangers got rid of Corey Seager tomorrow in a stupid trade, I would be totally against it, but I wouldn't stop loving the Rangers. So it goes a little deeper for me than one player. But no, I wouldn't have made the Luka trade. Astros are a joke, especially the fans. Support when they win, don't when they don't. Look, a lot of teams are like that, though. If we're going to just be real, there are very few fan bases that withstand absolutely terrible play on the field and still sell out. Look at the Cardinals. I know Aaron isn't hanging out tonight, but Cardinals fans didn't show up to some games this year, which was really surprising. Cardinals, probably one of the best fan bases, in my opinion, in Major League Baseball. Even the Cardinals had a dip in attendance putting out the product that they did in 2024. So I don't think any team is safe from dips in attendance if you don't have a good product out in the field. Like, even the Rangers. Like, when the Rangers were at their worst, and even when, maybe you can blame it on playing outdoors, but I remember, when the Rangers were bad in the summer, that stadium wasn't full. Globe Life, or the ballpark in Arlington, as I like to call it, the ballpark wasn't full when the Rangers were terrible in the 2000s in the summertime. It wasn't. Maybe people are watching from home, but I went to many Rangers games in the early 2000s when the Rangers were not good, and the seats are empty if the Rangers suck. Like, yeah, people still go to the games, people still keep their eyes on it, but if you have a terrible team, you're not selling out. Last year, I think the Rangers fans still showed out pretty well for a team that was kind of iffy at best all season long. But I still think that fans went to games in decent numbers. But I don't think there's a lot of fan bases that are going to sell out stadiums if the team is terrible. Again, maybe we agree to disagree on that one, but very few and far between fan bases that sell out the park, even if the team is 20-60 and you're in the middle of July. Like, I don't know. Let me keep going. Last couple of things here, Natalie. I'm willing to give EC till the end of May to start hitting well before I start worrying about him. Probably would agree on that one. Like, you got to give Evan Carter an opportunity to get his feet wet, get warmed up. Absolutely. Tommy boy, hook him. I can't do gig him. Can't do it. Can't do it. Here at Ride on Rangers, y'all, pretty much every DFW sport, right? We got, maybe with the exception of the Stars. I like the Stars. I live out in Vegas, so I probably have my allegiance with the Vegas Golden Knights. But I like the Stars. Grew up cheering for the Stars. But kind of hard in Vegas out here, expansion team. So maybe the Stars are the one team I really don't cover a lot on the show in DFW. But Mavs, Cowboys, Rangers. Colleges, SMU, keep my eye on. TCU, whoa, keep my eye on. But Longhorns, absolutely. Longhorns all day. Sorry, Tommy boy. All right, we are going to wrap things up, y'all. Love you guys. Thanks for all the comments. If you're not yet subscribed or following the account, please do so before you take off. I greatly appreciate it. Hit that notification button as well, bell or whatever it's called on TikTok. I would love if y'all could keep up with whenever I go live. I know I don't always make the grand announcements that maybe others do. Maybe I should get better at that. But if you turn on the notifications, anytime I'm going live, you'll get notified and you'll be able to get your 2 cents in. Come see what we're yakking about. I'd appreciate that. And grateful, of course, for all of your support today on the show, the likes, the people that shared this video along the way, and, of course, all the comments. We'll put out a couple of short videos throughout the week. That's something I like to do just for the people that aren't able to watch the long form or maybe don't have the time. So look for a couple of short videos from me. Don't know if we'll go live again this week. Probably will be sometime next week. I'm going to be doing some traveling here at the end of the week. So might not see me again until next week. Maybe we'll squeeze in a Dallas Mavericks live at some point. It was nice to see them break the 5-game losing streak tonight. We'll see. Maybe we go live Wednesday night after the Mavs game against San Antonio, doubling up against the Spurs. Played them tonight, play them again on Wednesday. So that might be the plan. But Rangers live, probably not until next week. So come hang out. I would really, really love seeing y'all again. But if not, catch us on the replay. Stay up to date with the shorts that we put out. Appreciate all y'all and your support. And as I always say to end every show, God bless and go Rangers.